Alright, so in this video we'll be going over the J Perm. So as you all might know, there are two different types of J Perms. They're known as the JA Perm and the JB Perm. They're similar but they look slightly different and they have different algorithms, of course. So here we have the JA Perm, and the algorithm that I use is shown as the J Perms are actually one of the easier PLOs to recognize because there's actually quite a lot of matching colors in J Perms. So normally the most prominent feature about the J Perm is this big 3x1 bar on the left side. So I usually hold the 3x1 bar on the left side. So if there is a extended 2x1 bar on the front left side of the cube like this, then this is actually the JA Perm. So here we have the JB Perm, and it is once again recognized by the 3x1 bar on the left side. So in this case, the extended 2x1 bar is at the back here, but instead of looking at the back, we can deduce that this bar is at the back by looking at the front, the fact that we don't have a bar at the front, so we can deduce it's at the back. Otherwise, we can recognize as a single 2x1 bar on the right side. Either way to recognize it is fine, however this is the JB Perm. So in terms of memorization, this is the JA algorithm that I use. It starts with a rotation downwards followed by an R2. So for this J Perm, it's recognized with headlights on the left side and once again extended 2x1 bar here at the front left. In this case, the algorithm has a few patterns that you can use to help with memorization. So the first move, of course, is the rotation downwards followed by an R2. So you can nicely transition into the first few moves by regripping your left hand so that you're holding the cube with your thumb on the bottom and middle finger on the top, and then followed by an R2F. So after those four moves, the rest of the algorithm is fairly straightforward to recognize, and it's easy to remember if you pay attention to how your hand moves. So after that, it's followed by R, F prime R. So you can just follow the R with your thumb pushing up on the F layer, followed by another R. So now we have a U2, followed by a wide R. So what the small R stands for is a wide R move. So both layers come down like this, followed by a U and a wide R moving the right layer back up, and then finishing off with a U2. So it's a fairly long algorithm in terms of finger tricks that we have to use, but once you get the hang of it, it flows really nicely, and that's why I quite like using this algorithm. However, if you weren't really a fan of the previous algorithm with the rotation and the wide R moves, which a lot of beginners aren't a fan of, then you could try using this algorithm instead. It's an alternative JA algorithm and it's quite popular as well. and it once again is quite easy to remember. So for this algorithm, instead of remembering how my hand moves, I like to remember how the pieces move in this algorithm, and I'll explain what I mean. So the algorithm starts by facing the 3x1 bar on, the 3x1 bar has to be facing in the front before you do this algorithm. Once you're holding it in this angle, the algorithm starts with an R prime. So I usually like to regrip at the start of this algorithm to do the R prime U followed by the L prime. So notice how this F12 pair and this F12 pair now ends up on the top layer. This is quite important because tracking these two F12 pairs will really help you memorize this algorithm. So after that, it's followed by a U2. Once you do the U2, it's followed by R, U prime, R prime. So you can think of it as hiding this F12 pair with the R. The U prime puts this F12 pair over here, and then R prime unhides this F12 pair. That's the way I like to remember these moves, but you can also just remember how your hand moves. Either way is fine. I remember this, the next U2, just swapping these F12 pairs around, so they sort of swap positions after this U2. And finally, just put these F12 pairs back where they belong with the R followed by the L, and then the final U prime is of course the AUF, and then that's the algorithm. For this one, I like to just remember how the F12 pairs move around because I feel like that's a more intuitive way of remembering this particular algorithm. Finally, we have the JB Perm. Once again, as I mentioned previously, it's recognized by the 3x1 bar on the left side. However, in this case, we don't have an extended 2x1 bar here. Instead, we have a single 2x1 bar on the front right position here. So that's how we know that it's a JB Perm. The algorithm starts by holding it in this exact angle. So the 3x1 bar on the left side and the 2x1 bar on the front right here. So this algorithm is actually the T-Perm rearranged. So if you've learnt the T-Perm before, this algorithm should be quite straightforward to recognize. So the first 4 moves of the JB Perm is actually the last 4 moves of the T-Perm. So once again, if you learnt the T-Perm, this should be quite easy to remember. So starts off with the R, U, R prime, F prime. And now in this case, this is where the T-Perm starts. So remember that the T-Perm starts with the sexy move. So it goes like R, U, R prime, U prime. And the rest is just the T-Perm. And you keep doing the T-Perm until you've solved the cube. If you've learnt the T-Perm, it should be quite easy to remember. But if you haven't learnt the T-Perm, this algorithm isn't too difficult to remember, but if you're interested, I'll link the T-Perm tutorial here as well. If you want to, you can check that out as well. I'll go over some more specific ways to memorize these particular moves as well. But just know that these algorithms are really similar. It's pretty much just the T-Perm rearrange, which is really nice and it's a cool pattern to observe. So there's a few important finger tricks that you should know once you're learning these J Perm algorithms. The first one, and it's quite commonly used in these algorithms, is the F prime push with the thumb at the front here. So it's actually used in both the JA and the JB algorithms, and it's actually a really common move that you'll find in other algorithms as well once you learn more PLOs and OLOs. It's done by your thumb pushing up on the bottom corner. It's pretty much just making sure that your thumb placement is correct all the time. And what I like to do is I like to use my index finger to hold the middle layer here so that when I push up, I don't accidentally push up both layers as well. It might feel a bit unnatural at first, but with practice, it definitely does help. An example of this move in an actual algorithm would be for this JA Perm. Once we do the R2 F R F prime, this F prime is done with the thumb. So that thumb move there helps eliminate a regrip. Otherwise we'll have to regrip and do the F prime with our index finger or something. Obviously regrips halfway through an algorithm is quite inefficient, so definitely try and learn this finger trick. It's quite handy. And also that finger trick is of course found in the JB Perm as well. The first 4 moves ends with the F prime, which obviously is more efficiently done with this F move here. So that finger trick obviously is quite important in the J Perm and for many other PLOs as well. So definitely try and get familiar with that finger trick. It is quite important. And finally, the other finger trick that I wanted to mention is this U pinch move. So I've mentioned this finger trick before in some other PLO tutorials and F2L for that matter, because it is one of the more important finger tricks, and it is once again used in the JB Perm. After the first 4 moves, you'll notice you'll have to do a sexy move, which is more comfortably done when you use the U pinch move here for that U move. Once again, doing this move may not be as natural as regripping and doing it like this. However, obviously regripping halfway during PLO is not efficient, so definitely try and learn this U pinch move. It is definitely one of the more common finger tricks actually, so I definitely recommend spending some time to get familiar with this. So you should notice that after you use those 2 finger tricks in your algorithms, both the JA algorithms and the JAB algorithms don't actually have that many regrips. So for the JA, at least for the one that I use, the only regrip is the one at the start, and then the rest of the algorithm should flow quite smoothly without any regrips at all, which is definitely good in terms of improving your TPS and improving just PLO in general. And of course the JB Perm can also be done without any regrips, that you shouldn't even need to regrip at the start. Starting from the home grip, you should be able to start the algorithm with the pinch move here, and once again here. So because the JB algorithm does not have any regrips or any necessary regrips, it should be done, and it can be done really quickly as well, which makes it a really nice PLO. So in terms of AUF recognition actually depends on which algorithm you use, but either way, these algorithms all have pretty straightforward AUF recognition techniques. So for the JA Perm case here, for the algorithm that I use, which is the one with the rotation, the AUF is actually really obvious. It's recognized by this massive 3x1 bar here, or you can recognize this extended whole thing here with the 2x1 bar at the front here. This whole section here won't move, and so if these colors are matching, then there will not be an AUF after the algorithm. However, for this case, we can recognize that here we have red and green on the front left side, but red is here and green is here. So in terms of AUF, you should be able to recognize that the AUF is actually a U prime. So after the algorithm, I should have to do a U prime. So I wanted to do this specific case, which is because after the algorithm, our fingers aren't actually in a nice place to do a U prime. So I'll show that right now. So if we do the algorithm, you'll notice that if I wanted to do the U prime the traditional way with my left hand, I'll have to regrip and do the U prime like that. And so I've mentioned this before, but regripping before AUF or regripping just for AUF is definitely not efficient at all, and you should try to eliminate that regrip. So instead of regripping my left hand, what I like to do in this specific AUF case is to use my index finger on my right hand and push the U layer over like this. This is definitely not a finger trick everyone's used to, but this is one that I quite like to use quite often as well. Otherwise, you can use your index finger and drag the U layer over like this. I've seen that done before. Either one of those is fine. I just prefer to do this instead. So at the end of the algorithm, it should look something like this. So after the algorithm, you'll notice that my index finger is actually perfectly set up to do that U prime move. So all I have to do is push the U layer over, and that's AUF done without a regrip. Alright, so if you use the other J Perm, the one with the RUL moves, then the AUF recognition is actually rather strange. Instead of recognizing all this matching colors stuff, is actually recognized by this single corner at the back right hand side. It is quite difficult to recognize this piece here since it's actually quite far away, but this is the only obvious piece that doesn't move. So as an example, after the algorithm, in this case, because the orange corner is matching the orange side, this actually does not result in an AUF. So it's quite counterintuitive, but it is something that is particular with this specific algorithm. So as you can see, no AUF in that case. Finally, for the JB Perm, the AUF is once again recognized via a different technique. So once again, for the JB Perm, it's not actually recognizing this. Instead, it's actually recognizing this front 2x1 bar. So if this is matching the color at the front, then there's no AUF in this case. So just as an example, this would look something like this. As you saw, the orange side was already matching, and in this case we didn't get an AUF. So as you can see, the AUF recognition for J-Perms is a bit all over the place, and honestly, like, there's not really an easy way to remember them other than just practicing it a lot in solves and just building up the habits of knowing where to look. It took me quite a while to get used to AUFs for J-Perms because there were different techniques for the different cases and for different algorithms that we used. But yeah, actual practice in actual solves will definitely be very helpful in this case. Alright, so that's it for this J-Perm tutorial. I hope you guys learned something. In fact, like the video if you learned something new. If you like these videos, then please subscribe for more similar videos in the future, and share these videos with friends or family that you might know who want to learn full PLO. It definitely helps grow the channel. I appreciate everyone's support, and if there's any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.